This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey Mozz. Welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead, the Capes and Lunatics, Southgate Media Group's choice platform for streaming content of the televised variety. Today we are doing Agent Carter Season 2, Episode 1, The Lady in the Lake. Dedicated to the fight against new atomic age threats in the wake of World War II, Agent Carter journeys from New York City to Los Angeles for her most dangerous and bizarre assignment yet. Our director this week is Lawrence Trilling. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are, of course, getting our based on Marvel Comics created by credit. Let's see here. Who else we got on this? Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely get our created bys. Brant Egglesteen is written by, and you know who is the most important person of all?
Oh.
Why, that is Sue Chung, our executive story editor. You can write it, Brant, but Sue's going to edit that, because that's what she does. Okay, so a fun episode, without a doubt. At least this has like one of the best openings you're ever going to see, because we got Dottie back. If you have missed Dear Dottie, she is back, and she is taking on the identity of Agent Carter. You know, red hat and all, even though how did she know that Agent Carter wore a red hat? She does not. She does not know that that is iconic, but she's doing it anyway, because that's just, she feels like that's a hat Peggy would like.
Yeah, it's very Carmen Sandiego.
Yes, and it's delightful. But so we get into this, and she is robbing a bank with a group of hoods, who I get the feeling are not necessarily Leviathan agents, but are just hired muscle. You know, she went down to Henches R Us, said, "Yeah, give me a multi-pack," and you know, these are those guys. I don't feel like they were anything more than, you know, local muscle. But
I get the distinct sense that she came in there to be caught, to be taken into the fold of SSR. Once again, just like Dr. Ovchenko did last season, she's doing the same game plan. Because also, when she gets in their custody, she's way too willing to make a deal.
Well, yeah, although maybe that's because they're asking the wrong questions.
Well, no, it seems like she gets frustrated with how bad at his job Thompson is, and she just says, "Yeah, come on, can we get to it already? I wanted to play cat and mouse, but the cat is gone, and I just got stuck with you, so let's just make a deal. Here's what I want. Give me anything, whatever, but let me tell you what I need to tell you. I have a message for you, you dummy."
Yes. Well, you know, and that's an interesting take on it, because, of course, there's a lot of levels of this, one of which is she can feed them anything she wants.
Mm-hmm.
What she wants is going to be a mystery. But it is interesting. It is interesting along those lines that what she wants is a stick pin in a very specific, lockbox. That is a unique. It's a very specific. Basically, she's going there to steal a red herring. Now, or a MacGuffin, one or the other.
Right.
We don't know what it's supposed to be. Although there is there are some interesting parallels. And again, this is one of these things where if you look at the timing of this episode and you look at what was going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at about the same time, the logo of that pin looks very similar to the logo of the NASA offshoot that was financed by Hydra, or that was infiltrated by Hydra, that was essentially sending people to the Hive's homeworld to get eaten. So there's interesting things going on there, but that is pure speculation. And that is one of the great things about Peggy Carter, is that everything you get, there's stuff that if you're a deep dive Marvel fan, you can go, oh, well, this and that, and then maybe these other things, maybe that leads to something. An interesting thing I just recently found out, which actually doesn't really come up in this, but actually does tie back to what's going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, is that apparently the last name Malik, though spelled differently, is M-A-L-I-K, is the name of the communist Red Skull.
What?
Yes. So that was Albert Malik, as opposed to... and
I wonder if the spelling discrepancy is like a reinterpretation of a reinterpretation. You know, like Malik might exist in our country for a long time because of whatever immigrant came here and they spelled it this way. But if from, translated from whatever original language, another interpretation of the same original word that it's interpreting could mean that it is in that same family.
I think that's a very strong possibility, and I think that was the intention. It's all connected, Mozz. That's the one thing. One thing they told us day one, it's all connected. That's what makes Marvel different. They're not just going to say, I don't know, maybe Flash went back. Maybe it's a multiverse. It's like, it is a multiverse. We know it's a multiverse. Tell us other stories within a centralized multiverse, and then we can visit the other ones for fun, But that's that. But in this multiverse, Agent Carter has captured her nemesis, Dottie Underwood.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets me. It was too easy to capture. Dottie Underwood doesn't get captured that easy.
I don't think it was. First of all, I don't think it was that easy. She got a bag of silver dollars to the back of her head.
Yeah, I felt like she had to make it look good.
She made it look real good. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And then how like thrilled she is to be in their custody, and how thrilled she is to match wits with the SSR.
Yeah. But that could just be classic supervillain hubris. She may be like, haha, you think you're locked in, I'm locked in here with you, but you're locked in here with me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's like, she is enjoying it because, okay, plan went a little awry, but you know what? I get to see my best pal Peggy again. I get to match wits with her. And quite frankly, I don't think these stooges are really going to be able to hold me.
Yeah.
If nothing else, she probably already knows that the SSR has been infiltrated by a Leviathan Hydra hybrid. Assuming they weren't always a hybrid from the start, She may be well aware of all of the duplicitous stuff going on behind the scenes. And to that extent, we actually get kind of maybe even an implication of that when everyone's favorite not a very nice person shows up, Kurtwood Smith, to jump ahead a couple scenes. But, let's talk about that right now. Kurtwood Smith.
Yeah, he's been playing him from the beginning. I love it.
Yeah, well, Kurtwood Smith is awesome in everything he does. I know everyone knows him as Red Foreman. For me, he is always Boddicker from RoboCop.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah, that's my deep dive. Because yes, everyone loves Red Foreman and his foot up your butt, but to me, the coldest line in any film is just before he kills Murphy. And Boddicker looks down and says, "You probably think I'm not a very nice person," and then just shotguns him to death. And that he survives it is a miracle. But that's the fun of the story of RoboCop. RoboCop is really one of the few really great perfect films in my opinion. And Kurtwood Smith, you couldn't do it without Kurtwood. Kurtwood is just the perfect villain for that, and he brings it. I think he brings a lot of that Bodeker in here, where he's the guy very much in the inside, very much knows where the bodies are buried, doesn't care whose bodies those are, and that's really what you're getting here. Is he knows that there are bodies, he knows where they are. He's not going to spend his time worrying about whether or not those are bodies of people he liked or disliked. He just needs to know where the bodies are to maintain his little pile of Legos, And that's what he's doing, and that's what he's doing for Thompson, helping this man achieve his Peter principle, rising to his own level of incompetence. Because we see that basically, after he was traumatized by being called a hero for his lies about the surrendering soldiers he murdered, he is, he gets put in the SSR, rises in the ranks because he's a lovable guy. He is basically kind of, a more evil George W. Bush in that sense. Strings were pulled. He got put there. He was a likable guy. He kind of found himself to be president. So, would not surprise me if at some point we do find out about a President Thompson somewhere in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And to get to Thompson, I'm a little upset with the writers because they gave him such a nice arc in the last season where he starts off as this, guy who doesn't really have any likable qualities. He's hiding from himself and yada, yada, yada. And by the end of it, he learns a bit more about who he is, becomes more comfortable with who he is, and accepts Peggy as an equal and all these sorts of things. He has all this growth, and he's a much more likable and better character. And all of a sudden, they completely undo that at the beginning of the season, and especially in this episode, he's completely back to his old ways, and all the work that they'd put to make him a better character is completely washed away. I was a little, more than a little, annoyed by that.
What I will say is, I don't think he's gone back. I really don't.
It certainly felt that way because of the way he pushes. First of all, the way he chooses that she's the one that needs to go, and then still seems to have this like, "Oh, I can do it attitude when he knows that's not right for the part. And the one thing they drove home was that all his other faults, he wanted to run the SSR with, honestly, and in a way that was best for the SSR, was best for the goal. He would delegate and that sort of thing. And now he's completely concerned with his ego again. When he goes in there and tries to interrogate her, it was such a lazy sort of thing for him to do, to try to repeat the words that Peggy said. Like, he can't be creative beyond that, or there was no redeemable quality to him anymore. And I'm kind of annoyed by that.
I guess what I will say is, I think expecting him to grow that much.
But he had.
Well,
They got us there. Now they're scaling it.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. I think you wanted him to be there. But even as the senator is taking him away at the end, and he's just letting the senator think, he says, well, it was a team effort. It's like, well, but you're the leader. It's like, well, okay, I'm the leader. So immediately.
No, what else is he supposed to do in that situation? He just went with the tide. But it wasn't as big of a scaling back as it is right now. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was kind of like, man.
Well, and here's what I'll tell you. He let Peggy run the investigation. He let Peggy get Dottie Underwood. And so he did what was best for the investigation. He even has Dottie in there. He even has Peggy in there doing the interrogation. He eventually gets graded on it. But
that's what sets him off. He sees her doing such a good job. He's like, no, I should get the glory. Shouldn't the guy who fights the bear get the honey?
And that is his story. It's like this.
I'm a little annoyed.
Well, but I guess what I would say is you shouldn't be.
Nah,
it's sort of like this is, and this was a whole thing, whole other concept that I recently posted about. This idea, when Darkseid invades and Lex Luthor and Superman have to team up to fight Darkseid, you don't think that everything's forgiven and forgotten between them. You don't think that Lex Luthor is now going to, dedicate himself to truth, justice, and the American way. He is going, or maybe, to the American way but not necessarily Truth and Justice.
I'm just saying, as the viewer, they asked you to go on a journey, and they made it pay off, and then they said, "Oh, sorry, we're taking that, the gift you got at the end of the season for going through the whole thing."
I don't think they take it all back.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, I think the actual point about sending Peggy is more about twisting a knife or just twisting Sousa.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's way more about Sousa than it is about Peggy.
Even then, he was like on good terms with Sousa too. They took out Lenchenko together. They bonded. Like he's like, okay, I see you, I trust you, and you're like, hey, you were good under pressure too. I would ride into battle with you, and that's a certain. And then now that's negated too. It's like I don't know.
Or
to me it really seems like the writers needed somebody to bounce the goodness of someone else off of, so they had to use him as a jobber as opposed to an honest character. And that's
let me give you this alternate interpretation. He does respect Peggy and knows Peggy is good. He knows Sousa is struggling in his own ways. They have Dottie. Now maybe he's not going to be as good at interrogating her as Peggy will, but the hard part's done. She's in custody, and we can handle it from here. And Sousa says he's got a deal. He's looking for someone. I'm going to send these two because, hey, you know what? I do respect them both, but honestly, let them be each other's problem. Let them make each other look good, and I can stay out here on the East Coast and keep on doing what I'm doing. I
guess I could kind of see that.
I mean, here's the thing. I never felt that Thompson ever lost his venality. I think of him more like okay, a little hellfire, this one's for you. I think of him more like a Reggie character from the Archie content, where Reggie's still one of their friends. He's just their jerk friend. So, in a more modern update, he would be the Chandler. Or the Ross, depending on your view of the moral deal.
Right. But even with those characters, there's a whole lot of redeeming qualities. They've left Thompson completely bare of any redeeming qualities.
I don't think they do.
I hope not. I like their interpretation. If he's thinking from the perspective of being a good manager, which is what they painted him to be in the last season, at the very least that he was a good manager, he saw talent, he knew where it should be applied, and he got people in their right roles and was good at doing that.
Yeah.
And if that's his perspective of getting, hey, you'd be better served doing the bigger things. We can handle the minutia of the things. Let us handle that. You go handle the big things, or maybe Susan needs you. I can live with that. Let's hope that proves to be true.
And also, I don't spite him for his venality. I don't think anything he's doing now is him trying to hurt Peggy, hurt the agency, or hurt anyone. I think he's just doing this because he sees this as I think he thinks it's funny that Sousa and Peggy get back together, and he knows that's going to be awkward for the both of them too. And I think he thinks that's hilarious because you can see he gets the smile on his face thinking about it. I got just the man for you. Intentionally saying I got just the man for you. To dissuade, because of course Sousa's not even thinking I should ask Peggy to be here, and he's like, oh no, right. I'm going to give you my best agent, because then he can say it's like, oh, why'd you send Peggy? It's like, oh, you said you needed help. I figured who better than our best agent? She's the best agent, so I'm perfectly okay with him perfectly okay with him being a guy who cares about what he does, but is also a jerk about it. I'm okay with that. I am not. I don't need everybody in the story. I don't need everybody to be Sousa. We already have a Sousa. We already have a selfless Captain America missing a leg. We already have that guy, and he's over in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's so good. So they have Sousa out there. We don't need two Sousas. We need Thompson to be we need him to be Thompson. We need him to be the guy who, is respecting Peggy for what she can do, but also wants to be the boss too. He wants to move up his ladder. He's thinking about his own situation as well. And like I said, they had Dottie. we don't need to worry about we can handle the interrogation. Whatever's going to happen with the interrogation is going to happen. We just got to make sure she doesn't leave. Because quite frankly, honestly, I'm sure from Thompson's point of view, Dottie Underwood being captured is as much of a feather in the cap as he necessarily needs. It's like the idea that she's ever going to... So, in its own way, the idea that Dottie is going to just completely turn over on Leviathan and communist operatives in the United States, it's like, sure, of course she will. And in that sense, maybe Peggy's the one that's being totally naive there. It's like, yeah, sure, Hail Hydra. That's the, when we go to the first Avenger and they make the point that Zola doesn't bite down on a cyanide tooth after he gets captured because, he's going to do what he's going to do, but he's not necessarily going to, he'll happily cooperate because it's like there's nothing you can do. He's going to win anyway, but he also is cooperating because he knows, well, maybe they will. And this is where the trend is going. So anything she's going to give you, it's only because it's in her best interest. And it's ridiculous to think that she's going to give you something against her best interest, which is why she says, deportation is better than prison, and Thompson counters with prison's better than the electric chair.
She's like, done. Signed, sealed, delivered. Let's go.
Well, yeah, exactly, because whatever she's going to give them is going to be what it's going to be right now, and it's like, let's talk about, if we want to do a negotiation, let's talk about what the real negotiation is here. You're going to give us some nonsense, but we're not letting you out again. And really right now, our question is do we have you dead, or do we just keep you in a prison where maybe someday you escape? But that's that other guy's problem once you escape. And to that extent, essentially it becomes Kurtwood Smith's problem now by freeing Dottie. Or not freeing her, but taking her into FBI custody. So it's an interesting thing that happens in that story, in that fact that now Thompson's pretty much relieved of all responsibility, meaning he will continue to rise to glory in whatever place that he finds himself. So good for Thompson. Yeah. Things always work out for the...
That's why I want to believe there's some good in him, because it's clear that he is going to ascend, and I want him to get there being a good person.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't think he's being a bad person. I think he's being at most a venial person, and I don't think
right. It's just like we worked so hard to walk all that back last season. But you might be right. He might have some, good intentions. Yeah. I'd like to see it that way.
Yeah. Well, he does want good to happen. He just, would like it if he gets to do the good. So that's the long and the short of it. Let's get to the rest of this episode because we just spent a lot on that whole because there is a lot that goes on. Because basically,
the actual episode hasn't begun yet.
Yeah, well, basically, what happened was that there's a woman and she seems to be part of a serial killer's spree, and that might do it. But the reason the SSR is called in is because she froze the entire lake she was in, because it's the Lady in the Lake killer, where the guy is killing women and throwing them in the lake. For what it's worth, I kind of think that cop was probably the actual Lady in the Lake killer, but that's just me. Just going to say that I think that Detective Andrew, Sean O'Brien, I believe that is, Detective Henry, actually was the killer the whole time.
So you're saying that the rich guy paid the cop to do the killing itself?
Well, I don't know if all the killings. I don't know if you paid for all of the killings, but I think
the girl in the lake, that was, because obviously, like the impetus to kill her came from the congressman or the guy running for Congress or whatever.
Yes. So the congressman who was stripping the lab assistant, definitely got murdered by Andrew. He even admits to that. That basically, that's the thing. He didn't kill her. She was just dead, and he had to get rid of the body. And he got rid of the body in this way to make it look like it was the Lady in the Lake killer, because that's how he got exposed to the blood. Because that's what they reveal is that, if you're exposed to the blood, that's what's going to cause the super freeze. Because whatever the bad thing is in the system, that causes the super freeze, and that's in the blood. And if you touch the blood, you'll get it, and then you get the super freeze. And they actually even sort of call that out at the start of it when he's like, yeah, I'm the kind of guy that gets a cold no matter what the season or weather is. And so it is. So that's how Peggy comes out there. And yeah, so we do find out. So expanding of the story, the woman that is killed is the mistress of the head of Isodyne, who is that no, not Jason Welks? Yeah, Kelvin Chadwick, played by Curry Graham, who is a very interesting character. Now I'm trying to remember what happens in this. Oh yes, so okay, so just to put it all in order. First, they realize that the body is glowing, which is disturbing. They realize, well, there is another particle accelerator just up in Pasadena at Isodyne. These poor, the poor lab guys. I feel so bad for them all the time and this one was this. Yeah, this one who said, I'd like to go out for drinks, was, what, you're always invited out for drinks. Like, oh, okay. So, but in this case, it's the coroner also who is just, also gets the fuzzy end of the lollipop here, but, he does say that, he did apply to Isodyne, but, decided to serve his country instead. See where that
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Although, arguably, he could have been the lady in the lake had he been working there, so that's the other flip side to that, because we see at the end that even the people that we trust may not be who they are, because when Peggy goes there, she meets a certain Dr. Jason Wilkes, played wonderfully by Reggie Austin, and I love how she gets into the back lab there, where she's like, and again, it's such a nice little act of diversion between her and Sousa, where Sousa flirts with the secretary, she goes to the bathroom, and then she, like, as you see when she bumps into the doctor, and she's like, "Oh my, what a gentleman! Such strong arms you have." And he's like, "Ooh," it's such a nice little silent scene in the background, and that's how she gets the car to get into the back. And that's where she meets Dr. Jason Wilkes, who is apparently making wine. Which is a weird thing to have him be working on at Isodyne Energy, which is arguably an energy corporation. I mean, I could get maybe if he was working on bioorganic fuels, but no, I'm just making a way to age wine faster. Or,
but he seems to be, by the end of this, not just a random doctor, somebody who really has a handle on what's going on.
No, he is not, and that's the point.
Right, so then what was he doing there? What was that whole charade about the wine? And, like, was that, like, his private room where, like, he just has a little hobby that he does? He creates wine. He was coming to check up on it, and he saw her, and he's like, oh, I know who this is. Let me be a little careful and put on some weird sort of an act kind of thing, Oh,
I don't think he knows who she is in this moment. I think he's literally just grabbing the first person he sees, and honestly, the pretty chick he sees, because clearly he sees this as his in with chicks. Because, the way he very awkwardly flirts with her the whole time.
Yeah, but by the end of it, when you find out how much control he really has, it seems like there was probably an ulterior motive to that. Like he was doing something strategic by flirting with her.
I don't think so, because I think. Okay. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I kind of feel like it was. I kind of think like. I think it was just an interesting. I think that honestly they were just saying, well, what's he working on? So maybe he's trying to make better wine, because there's a market for it, and maybe there is. And for what it's worth, he might have multiple projects he works on, and I don't know exactly how labs were set up at Isodyne Energy in the 50s, but it's entirely possible that this is a side project he's working on. But yes, he's definitely working on deeper things, and for what it's worth, he knows who this woman is. But he also doesn't think anything about saying that he knows who she is. So I don't think that there's any plan in place for him to say, "Oh yeah, that's the boss's Goman." It really doesn't doesn't serve any purpose to let that data out. It'd be much more practical to say, I have no idea who that woman is, or I don't know. It's a bad picture. I have no idea who that woman is. So that he knows who the woman is and he says who she is, and then gives you the whole storyline, suggests that he is kind of oblivious, maybe a bit of an absent-minded professor, maybe brilliant and a genius, but also maybe not, maybe thinking, not thinking as far as he should, because, it's kind of a thing where, you could definitely say there's an interesting dynamic going on in context where this is a guy who, by the way people treat him in society, should not be where he's at, but has sort of made the decision that the only way I'm going to get anywhere is by being the loud person, and I know how dangerous that is, but it's better than being the quiet person, because, we even see that, Henry calls him, or Andrew, the detective Henry calls him the janitor, and says he's not the janitor. But his awkward flirt with Peggy is, although, works out for everybody's advantage, because he's like, well, here's my number. Here's my personal number. Which, it's after World War II, the Army's integrated now. Peggy's fought alongside, Gabe Jones. In fact, there was a lot of thought that Gabe Jones was who she married. So I don't know why that was a thought, but that was a thought for a while. I don't know if she married Gabe in the comic books, maybe. I don't know. But I think that's been retconned out if she ever did. But, he's pretty bold there, and he says, he gives them their number, and that's who they call in when they realize that something is making everyone freeze, or making the coroner freeze. And then, of course, they say, oh, well, we think only someone who had gotten in contact with the blood would make you freeze. And then that's when Henry realizes what's going on. And after he goes to the drinking fountain and freezes it, realizes that he has to fix it because he knows he's dying, essentially. He's, turning into a popsicle. And he, kidnaps the doctor to have the doctor figure out how, and the doctor's like, I have no idea what to do. I don't know what's wrong with you. But of course the guy's desperate, and then of course we see that after they chase after him, one of the other cops on the scene shoots Detective Henry, and he shatters as well because
got to make sure.
Yeah. Well, and then of course he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my radio." Does a nice little, I don't know, I'm just a rookie cop. Bit. Then
I saw a guy not moving, so I figured, let me shoot him.
He did have a gun, so fair enough. But interesting, But again, Wilkes is not letting it go. He's like, maybe we should talk about this over dinner. And it's like, dude, read the room. I mean, really. You don't know
I will say, when she intercepts him when he's running away from the gunfire, she gets awful close to him.
Yeah.
It seemed like she was enjoying that moment too, and good for her, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's not like he's not a tall, sexy man, but, at the same time, she doesn't know who this guy is. And as she says, I make it a point not to fraternize with persons of interest. Said, well, at least you think I'm interesting. But I'm bummed. And then we basically get all of the reading out. Does Peggy know about... No, that doesn't happen this episode. That's next episode.
About Sousa's lady?
Yeah, Sousa's lady.
That's the end of this episode. She sees out the window. She invites Sousa out for a drink, and he's like, "Oh, actually, I'm busy tonight." She looks out the window, and there's a lady in a car. He gets in, kisses her, and she's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah,
because the secretary Rose, Leslie Boone, as our Rose, we love her, makes the point that you got to talk to her about it, because it's just going to get more awkward when she finds out. And then, of course, she goes and hangs out with Jarvis at the end.
And we get to see Mrs. Jarvis, which is great.
Oh, yes, and we love Mrs. Jarvis. Everyone loves
she's
Mrs.
so cool.
Jarvis.
Yeah, and I love how that little interaction was a little awkward and weird at first, but then she immediately wins Peggy over by saying, "Look, Peggy, I know who you are, and this is how much I know who you are. I know exactly what you want. Look at this. And she's like, oh my God, you're amazing. That was such a nice little moment. It was great.
Yes, the garter with the holster. It's delightful.
Yes.
What I will say on all of that is it's neat because you also get their interaction in there where she was saying, you were basically expecting, Jarvis and a Quartet, right? It's like, yeah, kind of. And he says, yeah, I was expecting a circus strongman with a wig. Which, and again, fun fact, Dum Dum Dugan was actually a circus strongman, so. Fun facts. Yes. So that's interesting. And then, of course, we do see Whitney and Chadwick speaking with the cop. Says, "Yeah, I took care of it. Tied up the last loose end." And in that, she makes the point to Chadwick, it's like, yes, now we don't have to dirty our hands anymore if you just stop dirtying your other parts. Although, then we get to see the final scene, which is, of course, Wilkes in his lab, and we see he's got crazy MacGuffin metal, some phlebotinum, if you will, in a stasis field. Going crazy. So,
you think it was a metal, or do you think it was some alien goop, alien, colony of worms, alien intelligence?
Well,
it looked like the symbiote, didn't it?
Well, I mean, for a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans felt it looked a lot like gravitonium, which we saw briefly. Which because it's like a liquid metal that's in a constantly shifting state. I mean, definitely, I think it has a metallic quality to it. I mean, I know what it is because I've seen these episodes before. But, and definitely you could see, it looks a bit like the symbiotes. And honestly, if they do an MCU symbiote that is not the Sony symbiote, they may decide to reference back to this, but we'll see. But in this, because there's a lot of actual qualities about this that is going to get kind of symbiote-y as we watch in later episodes. So, but we'll talk about that later, because I think that's everything in this episode. Any final thoughts there?
No, I think we got to it. I really enjoyed all of Dottie Underwood's work, and especially the subtleties of her expressions when Thompson is trying to interrogate her so sadly, and how almost she's like, "Bless your heart." That's the look she has on her face, and it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, I do think we get more of Dottie Underwood this season. I don't think this was the last time we see her, though I can't remember exactly. So that's a question for me. I don't know if we've seen the last of Dottie Underwood or not. But it was a great episode, and I was truly happy to see Agent Carter getting back. I'm very happy that Howard Stark is getting into movies. Still no Maria Stark, though. So that's an interesting thing. That's something that's got to come up sooner or later. Next episode is A View in the Dark, and we'll talk about that next week. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying listening to this show, and I hope you're enjoying listening to it on Tweaked Audio headset. Yes, Tweaked Audio, the best headsets money can buy, and you can get those at tweakedaudio.com, tweakedaudio.com. Man, that is a weird word to try and spell every week, especially if you can't spell like me. And, of course, if you are listening to this and you already have your headsets and you want to do something else, go over to huntakiller.com. That's huntakiller.com. How about Michelle Gray, not Marcy Gray, Michelle Gray. Solve a cold case. It's great. It's fun. It's like having a escape room delivered to your house every month. And, of course, if none of that interests you, just go down to the show notes. Look for that Amazon link. It's not hidden. It's there. We'll guide you right to it. Click on that. That's just going to take you to Amazon. And nothing else happens after that except that you buy stuff at Amazon because you're going to buy stuff at Amazon. It's going to get sent to your home. And then we're going to get a little something. And they say, hey, thank you for sponsoring us, Southgate Media Group and Capes and Lunatics. And everyone's happy. And while you're there, you can also check out Pod Life the book, which is the book written by Southgate Media Group people. about the joys and sorrows of podcasting, and that actually directly helps the entire group and gives you some insight into what podcasting is all about. So I highly recommend you do it. Makes a great Christmas gift because there will be Christmas. Anyway, in the meantime, Mozz, if anyone wants to talk to you about any of this or how I'm a big sellout doing all these shills, how can they reach you?
They can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way Mozz and Poz once again, superconnectivity. You can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way Mozz and Poz once at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word. Although you wouldn't know it to hear me say it because I sounded like 4 words or other things because it's got all crazy there. At gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet the last few episodes of the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We will miss you, agents. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties, you've navigated another stormy sea with me and Mozz to learn the secrets of the streaming world. Tune in again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.